Hello and welcome to Senior Matters. I am Sharon Rice and I'm the Director of the Wareham Council on Aging, and I am very pleased to welcome our in-studio guest today, Jodi Tolman from Oasis Senior Advisors, who's here to talk to us about a wonderful program, a free program available to seniors. So thank you, Jodi, for making time for us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, great to have you here. So in a nutshell, could you give us just a brief description of what Oasis Senior Advisors does?
Absolutely. So we are, as you say, a free, totally free, there's never a charge for our service, concierge, in-person placement service. And what that means is that we work with seniors and their families when senior living, whether it's independent living, assisted living, memory care, when senior living is being considered for maybe some point down the road, or if it's necessary right now. If someone has had a fall and was hospitalized and is now in rehab and needs to directly discharge to assisted living right away, that's something that we help with. If someone's at home and in fine shape but thinking about what's down the road, then we can be helpful there as well.
Oh, excellent. So I would imagine at this time, you've worked with hundreds of families.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds. So what do you, from your experiences, what do you see as the biggest challenge when someone is starting to navigate down this road?
That's a great question and an important question, because unless you've had some reason to enter this arena, you have no knowledge of the arena.
Exactly.
And it is daunting, it can be overwhelming, it can be confusing, it can be very difficult and time consuming to find the right option. And so the great benefit to our service is that we take you by the hand if you like. There's as much hand holding or as little as you prefer, and guide you every step of the way through the process, streamlining the process so that you are not spinning your wheels and going here and there when those options may not be the right options for you. Right. So it's a wonderful way to, as you say, navigate these waters.
Excellent. So how would someone begin the process, whether it's, the senior themselves or maybe it's the family? How does it all start?
A person would reach out to Jim Monty. Jim Monty is the owner of the Oasis franchise in this part of the world. So someone would reach out directly to Jim Monty and have an in-person, may start on the phone, but at some point there will be a face-to-face meeting. And Jim will do a very deep dive of discovery to learn all about that individual. What are their health needs, if any? Physical, cognitive, what's their budget? Where do they want to be geographically? What are they hoping to find? Is a pool necessary? Is that a deal breaker? Is an art studio something they'd like? All of those granular details. And he, based on all of the data he gathers from that individual and their family, will then recommend communities that fit the bill, that check the most boxes. He will schedule tours. He will accompany that individual and or their family on those tours if they choose. And he will facilitate every step along the way from the first phone call to move-in day.
Wow.
And there are lots and lots of ducks that need to be put in that row, and he can put every single one in the row.
Excellent. So you had mentioned kind of that customization almost to find the right match, the right fit for the individual. So if someone had specific or mobility challenges, as you mentioned, maybe some memory loss, or I would imagine even like low vision or deafness, they would be able to select from a smaller pool of locations.
That's exactly right, and also a very important point. And customization is the word. And that sort of is a great example of why this is a great way to go rather than trying to do the research on your own. Jim knows the options, the senior living communities in his territory. He lives in his territory. He spends time in these communities on a regular basis. He knows the teams. He knows the companies that own and manage these properties. And he knows that one has a pool. That one has availability in their memory care neighborhood. That one has a brand new resident care director, for example. So all of those details. And based on an individual's specific needs, care needs perhaps, or desires, he will recommend just the right communities. And so that's a perfect example of the enormous time-saving device that this service provides.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it is a daunting task.
It is, truly.
Yes.
And if I could just add,
absolutely.
Not every community, communities vary widely from one to the other to the next. And not every community is the right fit for any given person.
Yes.
So when Oasis is part of the equation from the beginning, then we can take a very holistic approach and save time and save energy. And it can be so much less daunting and confusing when you're only looking at the options that are the right fit for you.
Exactly. Because it is, it's a hard thing for some folks.
Exactly
it's a tricky time, and it's a big transition. So you really do want to have that right match, the perfect fit.
As I always say, information is key to any major decision in life. And this is one of the most difficult, stressful decisions an individual and their family will make. And it is no small thing to move from one's private home, perhaps, into a communal living environment. It's a very big deal. And the more information that you have and the more streamlined can be your process, the better decision you make and the better you feel about the decision that you've made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You had mentioned that Jim would help with the financial, or talk about the financial side of things, which is obviously a big component to this.
Absolutely.
So prior to going out into the different locations, there's some kind of a review where they can sit down and they know exactly, or I know you don't get to control the fees or anything like that, but they get to see what they're looking at dollar-wise.
Exactly right. So Jim, part of his discovery will be financial, and he will learn as much as he possibly can. And seniors do very well to educate themselves about their financial picture. They want to know if they own a home, what is it worth? They want to know what their assets value. They want to know exactly what their income is, whether it's Social Security, pension, annuity. They want to get their hands around their entire financial picture, because what they have will determine where they go. And so, yes, Jim will do a deep discovery dive into finances, budget, what's possible, what's affordable. And given that data, then this community and this community and that community are affordable for you. And if finances are constrained, if finances are limited, Jim will learn that, and he will work with this family accordingly. There are not a lot of options out there for lower income folks, but there are options, and he will. And this is one thing that Jim does. Jim works his tushy off, if I may say so, to help every individual and find the right option for them.
Oh, that's great. Because a lot of people, they have this idea in their mind of what this all costs, but it's really not based on anything factual. So this would be a really important component, no matter where they fall on that financial spectrum, too.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I will always say to people and their families, yes, senior living can be very expensive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be very expensive, because there are options. And so don't assume that you can afford it and just reject the idea out of hand. Don't make that assumption, because you're doing yourself a disservice. There very well may be an option that will fit your budget.
I bet a lot of people do that. So that is really good information. Absolutely. So talk a little bit about timing. So I'm going to use my dad as an example. He's 87, and in my opinion, really does need to be thinking about transitioning at this point. But he's not ready yet. So I would, if I had to guess, I would say maybe in the next year or so, he might be thinking about making a move like this. And when is the right time for him to start that? And then I'm going to ask like the kind of the inverse of that. If he were to wake up tomorrow and say, I want to go today. I want to go now. I want to go as soon as possible. So is there a quicker way to do this, or is it a long-term process? Are there waiting lists at these folks, at these places?
It's very much, Jim works with families and individuals who, as I said earlier, are either just thinking about and want to educate themselves as to what's out there for down the road when they're ready, or he works with folks who are in rehab and need to discharge right away, and everything in between. As far as when is the timing right, my philosophy is the sooner the better. If budget allows, if finances allow, the sooner a person makes this transition, because it is a big deal, the better. The healthier physically and cognitively a senior is when they make this big transition, the easier and the quicker they acclimate, and the longer they have to enjoy what is absolutely a wonderful lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So timing is huge. And I before coming to Oasis, I spent 15 years working in senior living communities, independent living, assisted living. And so many people, somebody would come in for a tour, I'd show them two apartments, they'd stay for lunch, they'd stay for an activity. Afterward, we'd reconvene in my office. So, Joan, what did you think? I loved it. That apartment is beautiful, and lunch was delicious, and that speaker was fantastic. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Would you like to make a deposit? That apartment you like so much is available. And Joan will say, no. And I will say, why? And she'll say, I'm not ready. So I advise seniors when I work with them to do some homework, which is to really pull apart the sentence, I'm not ready, and see what does ready look like for you. Does it mean a crisis? Does it mean, when I can't take care of myself anymore, then maybe? What does ready mean? Because you need to know when you will feel ready to go.
Right, what your barometer is. Actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And lastly, people who wait, invariably, I can almost promise and guarantee it, they regret it. My dad was 96 when we moved him into a community after trying for many years. And when I finally visited him, how do you like it, Dad? What do you think? He said, this is fabulous. Why didn't I do this 5 years ago? So this is not something that you want to put off, because certainly you do not want to wait for a crisis, because then you're in crisis mode and all control is out of your hands.
Absolutely. So is there anything that's too soon, do you think? Or
in my opinion, there's no such thing as too soon, unless finances don't support long-term residency in a community. Pardon me. If finances allow, especially if you're a social person and your lifestyle at home now is more solitary, and if you're underengaged and understimulated and undersocialized and you're bored and you're lonesome, now is the time. Right, because that's exactly what this lifestyle offers. Yeah, exactly. Not to mention care, when care is needed.
When needed, right? Exactly. And there's still a lot of privacy and all of the things that people kind of don't want to lose, but you still do have your autonomy.
That's exactly right.
But you just have help when you need it. So.
And you make all of the important points, Sharon. People are under many misconceptions about senior living. One is that I'm going to lose my independence. I'm going to have no control. It's almost, they think they're going to be living in some sort of, lockdown environment.
Right, like a hospital ward or something.
Exactly. Yes. You have all the independence and control that you want and that you can manage. Right. You come and go as you want. People can come and stay with you. Your grandkids, your daughter's dog can come and visit you. You live in that environment as you would live at home, as long as you're safe and well to do so, as much independence as you like.
Yeah, that's excellent. So very enlightening, just to get some different perspective on that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So geographics, I should say. Sometimes when a senior is ready to make this move, they want to be closer to family. Sometimes the kids have moved out of town. They're, an hour away. They could be the western part of the state. Maybe they're out of state entirely and they're in Texas or California. Would Oasis be able to help find these matches in different communities beyond just the Wareham area?
Absolutely. So our territory is Kingston, Plymouth, the Cape, the South Coast. Mm-hmm. And Oasis is a national franchise. We have 150 offices around the country. We have at least 7 offices in Massachusetts. Wow. So yes, if someone talks to Jim and it's determined that they need to be out of state or across the state, he will put them in the hands of the appropriate Oasis advisor.
Right. So basically, no matter what you need, there is an Oasis advisor available, whether it's here or elsewhere. So
that's exactly
awesome.
Right.
So is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you think our viewers should know? It's a lot to consider. As you mentioned earlier, knowledge is key. So I just want to make sure we've kind of given a comprehensive picture. Absolutely. And you are certainly the expert on this. So,
well, I don't think there's anything we haven't covered, but I just want to stress again, I do a program at Councils on Aging all over the place, mm-hmm. and it's called Busting Myths and Getting Savvy About mm-hmm. Senior Living. And it's a ton of information all about senior living in all facets. And what I will tell my attendees is, if there's one piece of information you take away from our time together today, it's this: you do not want to wait. Mm-hmm. You do not want to. I'll ask the question: how many of you are of the mindset that I'm not going? You're going to have to carry me out of here in a box. Wow. And people raise their hand all the time because a lot of people feel that way. Mm-hmm. Or I ain't going unless I have to. If I can't take care of myself, then maybe. It's a huge mistake mm-hmm. because, again, in crisis, you have no idea where you're going, when, what's available, on, and to be making those major decisions in crisis mode is nearly impossible.
Right.
And so to be forward-thinking, figure out what ready might look like for you, to learn about your finances, mm-hmm. and to begin the process. Call Jim. There's no obligation, there's no cost, no matter how long you may work with Jim.
Right.
And just begin to educate yourself about mm-hmm. what's possible and bust any myths that you have in your head about what senior living means these days, because it ain't what it used to be.
Yes, absolutely. Just like Councils on Aging, there's a stigma associated with us, but absolutely. We have the most lively, vibrant, active community here in Wareham, and the COA is a representative of that, which doesn't mean that if you're not super active that you can't come. We have things for everybody, but exactly. It's senior living is about living, really.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Sharon. So. And what I like to tell people is that it's like living on a cruise ship. Mm-hmm. We want you to love your cabin, mm-hmm. and we want you to come out on deck as frequently as you possibly can and enjoy everything the cruise has to offer, because it is an absolutely vibrant, interesting, engaging, fun, mm-hmm. delicious lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people don't know that when they think, especially seniors, they think about senior living and they think about the horrible nursing homes where people used to go and, if I may say, drool in a corner waiting mm-hmm. to die. That is nowhere near what senior living is all about these days, and folks need to educate themselves.
Yeah, I agree. So thank you so much, Jodi. This has been really, really informative.
My pleasure.
Great to have you here. And Jodi does come to visit us at the Wareham COA to give those talks about myth busting. So if you're interested in coming to see her, just give us a call. If we don't have something scheduled, we probably will in the near future. If you're looking to reach out to Jim Monty, who Jodi's been talking about, you can reach Jim by phone at 617-694-8656. Or you could email him at initial J, Monty, Monti, at your Oasis Advisor, and that's advisor with an O.com. Or, of course, you could always call the COA office at 508-291-3600. 888-646-3130, and we can certainly put you in touch with Jim. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next month, and take care.